Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to a very special episode of In the Red Corner. Tonight, I'm joined as always by Mr. Grant Winstanley. How are you, mate?
I'm great, mate.
Is it cold where you are?
No, why?
Did you get the agenda?
The agenda, the footy finals one.
Yeah, footy finals, yeah. For most of us, footy finals are upon us. We've both taken this game to heart, but let's be honest, we still don't really know the rules. So when we aren't the experts, we bring in the experts, but they were unavailable. So we asked our mates instead. Awesome, boys. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Mitch, our resident Richmond fan, and we've got Cory, our Bulldogs fan. How are we, guys?
Yeah, going well. Thanks, Matty.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, thanks so much for joining us.
Good stuff. All right, Mitch. Well, I'll kick it off. I'll come to you straight away. Richmond, how's the season been so far? What's your form coming? What's your form coming into finals?
I'd say I'd be happy with how we ticked along in the season. The Tigers at the moment, we're not about wins and losses. We're just about, ticking along, making sure that the younger kids are getting games now because we've got another decade of success. So,
nice. Yeah, so I like it.
I reckon the home and away season for the Tigers is interesting because, finishing third, but I still, I might seem biased, but I still think we're probably the number one team in the finals, just through experience and the sort of, the system that Dim's got them playing at the moment. And because with finals, I think that, injuries can really turn a team. And with the Tigers, with the depth that we've got at the moment, we're just sitting pretty. In saying that though, we don't want what happened in 2018 when, we probably thought we'd already won it and didn't even make it. So it's really interesting. That's what we love about finals, the anticipation of the whole, the few weeks that are coming up, and then obviously grand final days, the whole thing in itself. So I'm happy with where the Tigers are sitting, and they finished the season well. So I can't wait for the Brisbane game this Friday night.
Happy days. I guess for Cory and Bulldogs, it feels a bit like, I don't know, there's 2016 vibes. They're hitting form at the right time. Do you get the same feeling, or is that just me?
Yeah, little bit. I don't reckon it's. It was interesting because in 2016 we actually got smashed in the last game heading into the final. So we sort of didn't really think there was we played well towards the back end, but. It wasn't until we sort of got that little bit of a run on from the West Coast Hawthorn game that we, things started to get exciting. So I think this year there was probably more expectation this year, I think, than the year we won the flag. But it's been interesting. We sort of ebb and flow. I think it's hard with the brand of style of the style of footy that we play is very, very free flowing, and I think it's going to be interesting to see against good opposition whether we can stem the flow as when not quite St Kilda, but I'm talking in 2-3 weeks' time, Matty. We'll get there. But so I reckon against better opposition, it's going to be interesting to see whether we can sustain whether that style of footy is going to be sustainable, which it hasn't really been. That's what I'm a little bit nervous about. So. This week will be a mini grand final. I reckon if we can get through this, I reckon the next couple will do really well. But it's a bit the same for St Kilda. I'm thinking whoever wins this game might just push it to at least get into the granny. I reckon. Be pretty exciting.
Right? No pressure, Cory. But I have put $5 on St Kilda to win the finals at 41-1. So anyway,
wow!
I'm not biased, but anyway, Mitch, in regards to the preview, obviously the Brisbane game, how do you think it plays out?
It's interesting because I'm quietly confident against Brisbane.
Right, okay.
I just think, in saying that, I think Brisbane can win it. So if Brisbane win this week, I think they're in the box seat to go away.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, if the Tigers win, I think they're in the same position there too. A big matchup that won't happen this weekend is obviously Tom Lynch is not going to get up.
Yeah, he's out.
Yeah.
But I think Harris Andrews is back. So that's huge for Brisbane. It just sets them up. Like, he's the general down there, and
right.
And for Brisbane, and he just makes their team so much better. So I think, I still think the Tigers will win. We played pretty well up in Queensland. I don't think we've lost up there this season, considering everything happened. So it's a good record for us. And I think even with Tom Lynch out, I think I'm still confident for the Tigers to get up. But in saying that, like with Brisbane, they're the most exciting team, bar Port Adelaide, to watch, because they are consistent and they hold up. The Dogs were the starting team back in 2016, 17. Then these younger teams have sort of taken that spot, and it's really good to see these teams sort of come in and show their stuff.
Do you think there's already a story there with with it being the grand final at the Gabba? Is it does it worry you that there's a story writing itself there with,
well, I'm not sure if you know, but the Gabba's the Richmond second home. So it's all about hands again. People have a cry about, playing, at the best stadium in the world, MCG. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the strip club was the second home, Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the kebab shop's the third. So.
Yeah.
I would feel like,
I'm confident the Tigers will win, but wouldn't be surprised if Brisbane got up.
Yeah. I always feel, coming into finals, obviously I've been watching it now for, 5 years or so. I always feel like around this time is when Richmond start to kind of hit the stride, and it feels like there's a bit of an aura around Richmond when they get to finals. I know you've mentioned there that it's sometimes you can kind of use that, you can back yourself a bit too much and be a bit complacent. But do you think that plays a part? Do you know the experience of being in finals, doing well in finals, does that help you at this point?
Yeah, 100%. Especially considering the finals are going to be a whole lot different than what they've ever been with teams not getting home finals. So I think experience is huge. And I think actually, like looking at the Tigers, just with the older brigade, I think this is the last year, where you got Cochin, Edwards, Rewalt, like Martin's 28 or something. But they're just in the last year of their peak, and then Rewalt's already starting to slow up a bit, and I think this is the last year that we're in with the best box seat. Yeah. Obviously we've got a younger brigade coming up, but I just think with those older heads that have actually taken us there so many times. Yeah, and just actually a point on the aura of of it all. The Tigers, when they first got back in the finals, quite a few years ago, and we hadn't won anything for ages. Yeah. That aura was actually worked against us a bit, because the commentators would talk about how loud it is at a elimination final between Richmond and Carlton, and then that pressure, the Tigers just couldn't get up for a while there. So Dimmer's done an amazing job with that club, and obviously a lot of people. So it can work against you at times, but we've worked with it for the last few years.
And Cory, for you, obviously, how do you think the St Kilda game goes? Any sort of areas to exploit, or likewise any weaknesses for you guys that St Kilda should be able to capitalise? Or
I think it's funny. St Kilda have been a little bit of a bogey team for us the last couple of years, so we just seem to. I just think they seem to outstretch us a little bit too much in their forward line. Got a little bit dominant last time. I think realistically for us, we've got to kick goals, and that's the things that the last probably 8 weeks we've been really good at starting off games and getting lots of inside 50s, but just not converting. So I mean, for myself, I sort of see it this week. I can see us starting the same. So I can see us starting really well, getting those inside 50s. If we get the conversions early, we can sort of get that 20-point start in the first quarter. Then I can see us winning. But I really see the same. I see there's a bit of a wave for St Kilda now. It's sort of getting towards where everyone's kind of it's their time. And I think that they've got a really strong young playing group, but really, really hard at it. They've obviously really bought into what Brett Ratton's doing. So I'm tipping it's going to be a couple of points in it. I really see a close game. And I just hope, like I said, if we can start well, we can get that little bit of a head start. I reckon we'll get it. But if we kick points at the start, I think they'll be too strong for us. But fingers crossed we can convert early. Big Norton gets up and snags a few.
That's it. I'm sure Matt will enjoy that.
Josh Bruce might actually kick the ball the right way for 1 week or something. Who knows?
I don't know about that. Yeah, I was looking into it, and I was obviously looking at the last times we played. Last time Saints were in finals, 2009, 2010. We actually played doggies in the early games in those series, and Saints won those ones. I don't know. That's not going to have much bearing on this one, but. I've got to look back at what we've done in the past. I think it's interesting what you said, that if you think if one of us or whoever it is that gets up in this game, you think they can make a bit of a run. I was looking at the kind of the way that the ladder's going to play out, getting ahead of myself a little bit, but yeah, see if we can get
one game at a time. One game at a time.
Look a bit too
you look
far.
at it and you think like it's a tough run, but then. It's all a tough run. Now you've got to win all of these games, haven't you? It doesn't matter who you play when you play them so much. It's more, you're going to have to overcome the best sides here to make it to a grand final.
Yep. That's it. Just go to take your chances in the finals.
Yeah.
I think West Coast and Geelong are an interesting team in the top 8. West Coast will have the first home game for the elimination final, and obviously the Geelong have Port, which they beat them early in the year. And the interesting thing about Geelong is I don't think they're a team that likes expectations. So sitting 4th at the moment, I reckon it really suits what team they've got at the moment. They've got a couple of older veterans, obviously Ablett, Selwood, Hawkins, that are sort of steering this ship of young Catters. And I don't really like the Cats that much, but I do like them if I was a betting man, because they haven't proven anything the last couple of years in finals, but I think this is their time. And if they don't win it this year, then I don't see the Cats sort of staying up for a while. Yeah.
So if not Richmond, you think Cats maybe this year?
Well, that's the thing. The top 4. I mean, every year, obviously, the top 4. You look at them and you can usually see at least one clear standout. The fact that Port finished top is the interesting thing, because no one trusts them. Because they've been this side, they've promised heaps, delivered nothing for years, and then all of a sudden they're top of the ladder in this strange season that we've come across. So it's all eyes on Port, which is good, because if they win with the pressure, they'll go. They go a long way. If they lose against Geelong, they've done it a couple of times, Port, where they've finished on top of the ladder and then they've bowed out twice. Early days. So,
like how you're trying to palm off the attention there, Mitch, for the tie.
I started off the first 10 minutes.
No, fair enough. Well, and the big burning question that I want to know really is, we're a month away. If it was up to both of you, who are you having for grand final entertainment? Who's the halftime show? Who should that be?
Real
Any ideas?
I was keen on the Powderfinger rumours, but then they quickly came out and said, no, we're not playing. They've got old mate playing by himself at the MCG.
I saw that today.
Kazali.
Up there, Kazali. I think, for me, if it's in Queensland, I'd like to see a couple of Queensland acts play, maybe a bit of Violent Soho or ballpark music, maybe a Tide Line or something like that. There's a couple of I can see Corbo just staring at the abyss there. He had no idea what I was talking about then. But
I'm still sold on Meatloaf.
Knocking around.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Good question, Grant. Yeah, the entertainment. It's underestimated, I think.
Underappreciated.
Yeah, it is. It is. Exactly. I mean, forget about flags going all the way.
It's all about the tunes at the start.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's great.
Unreal. All right. Well, thank you very much, boys, for joining us. It's great to get the insights from these two sides. I wish you both the best of luck. Not so much you, Cory.
No.
But maybe we'll do this again as a finals as we progress. Take it easy.
Yeah. Hopefully it's back on in a couple of weeks.
All right, and now we've got Trav joining us, another one who didn't seem to get the agenda. He's turned up in his Bombers gear to the Footy Finals podcast. But thank you very much for joining us, mate. Trav's going to take us through the Port Adelaide and Geelong game taking place on Thursday night. So, Trav, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me on board for In the Red Corner. It's been good to see you and Grant have a crack at it for the first few weeks. So excited for the AFL finals. Didn't think we'd get there.
Yeah, I know.
Obviously, the worldwide pandemic's kicked off.
That's it.
Somehow the AFL's pulled it off. So I think for everyone in Melbourne and Australia, we're obviously going to be pretty excited for finals. My boys weren't good enough, were they, Grant?
No, it wasn't at all, mate. And that's an understatement, I think. So, Well, it's final season, so let's jump straight in, mate. Obviously, looking ahead to the fixture on Thursday, how are both of the form coming into the game?
Well, mate, look, to be honest, both teams are in pretty good nick. They've both had extremely impressive seasons. Obviously, Port Adelaide finished on top, 14-3, good percentage of 136. Very, very few injuries. Big name players not getting suspended. It just helps when you've got your best players on the park.
Yeah, absolutely.
Equally similar. Couple of injuries throughout the season. Obviously, Ablett having to come back to Victoria a couple of times with the family issues and a little bit of an injury there. So 14-3 for Port, 12-5 for Geelong. A couple of Geelong's losses were really tight. Obviously, the Blues game where they went down by 2 points. And then another close one there as well with the Pies. Port Adelaide, though, I think they would be stoked with their season. So going into the hub when everything got put on pause, they were probably the one team going up there that everyone was worried about. Can they win away from home? And then obviously they killed it up there. I think they won 3 of the 4 games, and then they're back in Adelaide for the next 7 to 8 games at home. So they're Porter and Ripper Nick 5 in a row. Geelong 4-1, lost to the Tigers. They got towed up. For them, they probably had an easy run home. They only had to beat Western.
Well, there we go.
They had a great come from behind win against the Bulldogs a couple of weeks back, where I think they were down by 30-odd points in the first quarter and got over the line, mate. So, I'm really pumped for this game. This is, in my mind, the game of the week.
Good.
You've touched on it a bit there, but you're saying, obviously, that how... I'm kind of wondering how that hub system and how, the weird way that the season's panned out, how's that kind of, has it helped either side? Has it hindered either side?
I think the maturity of Geelong as a team, so they're quite they've got the experienced players. You've got your Selwoods, Ablett, Dangerfield, the back line of Harry Taylor and Reece Stanley in the ruck. They've got all these guys that they've been in the game for a long time. Down forward, Tomahawk. So they've got that maturity where I think they can probably get away with it, whereas some of the other teams probably would have struggled with the younger guys. So a lot of these players have got families, so it's going to keep them more grounded, whereas some of the other teams, the younger boys, they want to get to a bit of mischief, or they're just not quite as mature yet. They can't train. Things that, so Geelong have been around the mark for a few years, so I think they've done well with it. Their coach keeps them on a pretty level-headed. And then Port Adelaide, I think everyone was a bit surprised not knowing where they're going to come into this season, up and down the last 3 or 4 seasons. But I think Ken Hinkley's a good coach. I think the players for him, when they got in the hub, they got that first win on the board, and it was just a little bit of momentum. And that's what you need in any sport, really. But and then when you get home to Adelaide, mate, they're sleeping in their own beds. So that's going to be a massive benefit over the guys are flying in from Queensland on the weekend, and then they're sleeping in a hotel room for 4 months. But in the morning, the game, fly out that night. So I think definitely massive benefits for Port Adelaide by being at home for most of the season.
But obviously, you mentioned it in passing. Then, tell me a bit more about Tom Hawkins. Can Port stop him? What's the game plan with good old Tom?
The big Tomahawk, mate. He people were writing him off this year, saying he's done. But 32-year-olds can, they can still have a place in the game, especially when you're a big, strong guy like him.
Yeah.
I don't think much else needs to be said really with Tom. Like last time we played Port, bag 6, they win by 10 goals. How do you stop him? That's the question for Port Adelaide. The poor guy, Tom Cleary, was on him last time, isn't playing this week. Might save his career, actually. But so the captain, Jonas, is going to have to step in.
Yeah, right.
With a bit of help from Mackenzie. But from watching some footage last night of how Port Adelaide zoned off and they just looked to be a little bit lazy in getting back to get that second man in to chop out on Tomahawk.
Right.
There where they're just 10 to 15 metres off the play, whereas he's so strong, you've got to be on him. Whereas at the other end, Geelong, they played Charlie Dixon perfectly that night. So Charlie couldn't get a run at the ball. He's always going up against 2 players. So I think they've literally got to copy what Geelong did to Port Adelaide.
Yeah.
Because that's you got to stop the big guy. But Tomahawk, mate, 42 goals, won the Coleman. He's also gone in top with the most goal assists of 19.
Wow.
And 4 involvements in the season. So he's the man to stop because he's involved in all the goals. So at the other end, though, Charlie, second in the goal kicking and most contested marks. So it's going to be a good night for key forwards too, with the weather probably low 20s, no wind. You want to be a big guy on those nights.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I always, from the outside looking in, I've been watching this sport now 5 years. Geelong always seem to be thereabouts, the top 4 finishers. But then I always feel a bit underwhelmed in the finals that they underachieve a little bit. Am I on the right track there? Have they got something to prove in this final series now?
Yeah, big time, Matt. Absolutely. And you've picked up on that because since 2011, mate, they've been in the finals most seasons, but they've only won 4 games, including a lot of times where it's been double chances. So 4-11, a lot to prove, an ageing list. They bought Gary Ablett back from Gold Coast. It was questionable. He's a superstar, though. You've got to have a crack with him in the team. So this is their time. This is their season because you've got Selwood's at the end of his tether. Harry Taylor's probably got maybe 15 games in him. So This is the year for them or else it's probably back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And obviously with Thursday's fixture, any surprise players? Anyone that you're expecting could make a bit of a difference? Or
I reckon you've got to keep an eye on Butters. Yeah, Butters from Port Adelaide. Good, phenomenal young player. Electric, skilled, take a mark, kick goals. So he's the one for Port. Geelong, I think Geelong's got a really even spread, and the players that probably surprise the most are the lesser likes, like your Menengolas.
Right.
Honest footballers. They run both ways. They get involved, tackle, big marks, and I think Menengola and Gary Ablett, mate. It's tricky for him. He's going to come in, probably kick 2 or 3, and bang one in from the boundary, and everyone's going to love it. So keep an eye on those guys. Key players. It's a midfield-heavy game. You've got Port Adelaide's midfield's very, very strong. You've got Rockcliffe, Boak, Ebert running through there, Powell Pepper, Butters. Then you've obviously got Geelong as well. So you're like Menengola, Guthrie, who's all Australian. Like Guthrie 2 or 3 years ago. If you said he was all Australian, anyone would have fallen over.
Right.
Anyone, mate. He looks like a scraggly cat, but he's killing it. You got Brian Myers on the wing. I think I'm excited for this game. It's going to be a cracker.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we have to ask you the big question. How do you think it's going to play out?
I think Geelong. I don't think it's going to be as. I don't think the margin's going to be as large as last time.
Right.
I can't say they're 91 to 31, but I think Geelong between 20 to 30. I reckon their maturity across the field is going to stand them in good stead.
Yeah.
I think that they seem to play very well again. Like they seem to play the opposition's game plan against them. So they don't necessarily have their own brand of footy that, like you watch a Richmond, you know what their brand is. Get the ball forward, handball, pressure. Geelong play a bit more of a style where it's what's the opposition's strength and how do we take that away from them?
Yeah.
So, even though they lost a few more games, I think Geelong I think they're ready.
Yeah. Right.
Do you think that's enough to take them all the way?
It's a good question, Matt. I just want to see how Richmond and Brisbane play out.
Okay. Yeah.
How Geelong will go in the games where it's a bit slipperier, where Richmond are suited for those conditions because it's the style of game they play.
Yeah.
But I'm not certain they can. I think they can get to the grand final. I'm not certain that they could win it though.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Is there any? I know you touched on the weather. Is there any other areas that they can be exploited? Any weaknesses in the side, or are you just saying that because of the strength of the others?
No, I think both teams have actually got a similar weakness in the team.
Right.
So where I see the two weaknesses for both teams is the centre half forward. So if you look at Geelong and Port Adelaide, they've got the big boys. They've got Hawkins and Charlie Dixon, but they don't have that secondary forward that can kick 3 or 4 as a big guy. So Geelong's tried Radigalia. They've tried other blokes through there. Port Adelaide's got the young fella Marshall. He's probably, at his best, he can probably kick 2 or 3. And then they've got the other young guy, Laddams, who's, big guy, but that's where either team can lose the game because they don't have that secondary option, which you need to win. You need that to win finals.
Good point. And obviously the burning question, which was of the last chat that we had with Mitch and Cory, the big question, mate, is if it's down to, it's a month away, if it's down to you, what do you want to see at half time? What entertainment are you picking?
Oh, mate, I want to see Colby. Colby versus Street Judas.
Colby and Masvidal. That'd be nice.
Colby and Masvidal, mate. No music required.
Yeah, there we are.
AFL doesn't need
music. I didn't see that answer coming, but fantastic.
Yeah. We'd be on board with that, wouldn't we, Matt? A bit of UFC action at half time.
I can get down with that. No worries. Yeah.
We'll give Dana a call.
Perfect, mate. That's what we want to hear.
Yeah, beautiful.
Trav, thank you so much, mate, for coming on and sharing those insights with us.
Thanks, mate.
And all the best. We'll speak to you very soon.
Good luck to the Saints, Matty.
Thank you very much, sir. Go on the Saints.
Cheering in the background.
Yeah, and see you next season, Trav. We'll be there for the real show, for the Essendon Breakdown show. We'll be there.
We can do a season review next week, boys.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Chalk, for joining us. Our resident Gold Coast fan, but he's going to walk us through Brisbane for this finals episode. Thank you very much for joining us, mate. We really appreciate it.
Oh, good, boys. No, it's good to be online. Good to join you.
Good to have you, mate. Always welcome. Let's jump straight in. Looking ahead to the fixture on Friday, Chalks. How was the season and that form for Brisbane coming into it?
Well, I guess they're probably if not the luckiest team in the whole competition, having the whole comp up in Brisbane for basically the whole season. So they've had
right.
They've been, they're never going to have a season like this again where they get to play as many games as they have at home. Look, they've taken full advantage. They've won, I think, they've got 14 from 17 wins and lost against Hawthorn in round 1, which is I think we can just scrap that because it's been, pretty poor for the rest of the year. But, obviously drop 2 games to, I think, the best 2 teams, Richmond and Geelong. I think they're probably my 2 picks. But other than that, they've basically been faultless. Like they've played some really good footy. They're exciting to watch. And again, being the fact that the grannies at the Gabba, the final series is up there.
Of course.
They can have a home crowd. Look, there's a lot in their favour for sure.
Yeah. I guess looking ahead to this weekend, it's a repeat of the game we played this stage last season. Brisbane come into it with 15 losses to Richmond. I know it's every game's on its own, and we shouldn't kind of look at those stats. But do you think that it plays much of a part into the mentality of how Brisbane are going to approach it?
Yeah, it certainly would be something that they'd have in the back of their mind. I think the big thing is, I think, what Richmond did to them at the Gabba in that first final last year. They basically after quarter time they smashed them. Dusty kicked 6. They just turned it on, and I think that's probably the one and you speak to Richmond fans, they much rather play Brisbane than have to go to Port and play Port. So it's clear that the Brisbane fans are pretty keen to play. The Richmond fans are keen, but I still think Brisbane are a great team. And again, that home ground advantage, and the fact that there's been a lot of talk about this dewy weather after sort of 5-6 p.m. that some of the other teams have struggled with. I don't know if you saw, but Collingwood have been training with baby oil and water all over their balls at the moment just to try and get used to it.
Yeah, right. What type of balls?
No, just the
unorthodox. Unorthodox, a bit of an unorthodox method, but okay.
Yeah, it is. I don't know if you've tried that or not.
No, not mate, but
who knows? Maybe there's something in that.
Yeah,
but,
exactly.
Look, yeah. So that's like teams are obviously thinking about the conditions a lot, and Brisbane, they're at home. They're accustomed to it. So I think that there's some advantages certainly that Brisbane have in their favour. But again, I think Richmond time their run to perfection. Every year they've now got this method where you write them off for the first 6 weeks, and then they're flag favourites by the end of the season, and they've done it now 3 years in a row. So I think Brisbane are in form. However, like they've got some pretty good stats. I think 10 of their last 11 they won or something like that. So like they've got the form on the board, but again, Richmond are a pretty good side. Their form in finals is second to none at the moment.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, Lucky Neal is kind of a guy that's been talked about all season. Seems obviously a shoe-in for the Brownlow. I did put money on Danger at the start of the season, but anyway, I did want him to get suspended.
Not about that. I think he's still a sniff. He's played some. His Danger's big games are big. Like they're big three. They're they're best on games. Lachie Neale, consistent as hell, racks up a lot of footy. It's basically had a year where he should poll in nearly every single game, but he's not like your Dusty or your Danger. I still think he deserves to win the Brownlow for sure. He's the best player in the comp, but he doesn't do the stuff that Danger and Dusty do, and these blokes that can turn a game on its head. They can go forward, kick 3 goals, like you saw again last year in that final. Dusty went forward and kicked 6 and just turned that game on its head after quarter time.
Definitely. And so is he, will he be sort of Richmond's sole focus, or are there any other players or anyone else who, Richmond should be worrying about?
I think Brisbane's spine is as good as any in the comp. They've got Harris Andrews, who's the best defender, but unfortunately he's obviously injured at the moment. He's by far the best defender in the comp. You've then got Stephen Martin, who ticks a lot of boxes as a ruckman. You've got McStay at centre forward, Eric Hipwood in the forward line, and then they've got, I guess, classy players that fall outside of that. Hugh McCluggage probably, I think, is going to be 2-time Brownlow medalist by the time he finishes. Like he's a star, plays on the wing. They've got Dane Zorko, another their captain midfielder. Again, he's probably someone that more so turns the game on its head. He can do some things in a short space of time. He likes to bob up and kick a few goals. So look, they've got, like any top 4 team, really. You do have your stars, but I think that the best ones, and that's like when I look at West Coast, they don't really have that absolute superstar, but they've got 10 guys that fall into that A grade bracket, and I reckon Brisbane's got a similar sort of thing. They've got probably 10 players that you're picking every week, no matter what side they're playing in, and they're much better than above average.
Yeah, totally agree.
I actually forgot Charlie Cameron as well.
They all.
There's another one that's just a match winner. Will turn the game on its head.
Absolutely.
But again, he's got some. I guess he's probably kryptonite in the AFL is on the other side, and I think he's really struggled against Richmond. So he's probably one that needs to stand up in a big final and do some
good
damage.
Point. Yeah, good point.
like we mentioned before, obviously we played this game out last year, but I would argue now that Brisbane are a better side, so there's got to be a chance for them there. And you mentioned it, the finals at the Gabba. I guess in a world where Brizzy overcome Richmond in this game, do you think Brisbane can go all the way?
I think they need Harris Andrews back.
Right.
If I'm realistic,
yeah,
he's best intercept marker, best backman in the competition. Defense, they say in finals, especially when you get to those big finals, they're not typically high scoring, and it comes a lot from your back end doing a really good job. So again, I think he's got to play a big part in their finals, which it's unlikely they're going to get him until maybe, the prelim final, I think.
Yeah, right. Wow.
So, obviously, hopefully, they're hoping to win this game probably, and then have another week off, and then, you hope that he's ready. But again, he's still quite a while off, and I think, without him, look, they've got they can do some damage, but I just think you put them up against Tom Hawkins at the moment, who's arguably the best key position player that's been in the game this year. Without having Harris Andrews to man him, Tom Hawk can basically outmuscle and do what he wants with anyone. So and then you got Richmond, who's just got that. You've got Lynch, Rewalt, Dusty floats down there. There's just some. I think it obviously helps Brisbane this weekend because Lynch has been ruled out. That's big. That's big for. I think Brisbane, the fact that that's Harris Andrews' direct opponent. So I guess that's a win. But again, they've got Rewalt, they got Dusty, they've got some pretty good forwards. They're still capable of hitting the scoreboard.
I'm trying to show Matt some support. I've put $5 on St Kilda to go all the way at 41 to 1, but anyway,
you never know.
I'll be honest. They're probably the one for me that I think are at least likely. Sorry to say that. I just think that they're probably a year off. I think they've done it. They had a really good start to the year. They've sort of tapered off a little bit. I think they're going to be. They've got it right. Brett Ratton's done an awesome job, and I think next year and beyond, I think they'll be, they'll be much more, I guess, finals ready. I think they've jumped in and look, they've got an all right list, but I think if you're comparing them to the West Coast, Geelong, Port Adelaide, that top 6, I feel like there's a big difference in that, or even top 5, there's a big gap between then, I guess maybe Collingwood, St Kilda, Western Bulldogs, they sort of fall that next bracket down.
Yeah. Would you agree with that, Matt?
Yeah, I don't disagree. I'm happy to be in finals. It's the first time I've seen Saints play finals. It's a side, and
a lot of my mates are the same. They're pumped. They're probably carrying on a little too much. So that's what happens. You do that when you're in the finals. You carry on, and you get excited. So it'd be good to see him do well, but
coming into it with a bit of momentum, so who knows? I think if we can get over the Bulldogs at the weekend, you just have to kick on from there, and just a good showing, and I'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah. And the big question, mate, really that we all want to know. Obviously, just short of a month away with the grand final. If it's up to you, who's that grand final halftime entertainment? Who do you want to see? Who should the fans be getting?
Well, being the fact that it's going to have to be an Aussie, we can't get anyone in, and the borders are closed. I narrowed it down. If I could pick, it would be out of Cold Chisel and Paul Kelly for me.
Right, respectable.
But I would have loved to have seen him or seen Powderfinger say, we'll come back together and we'll play, because they're from Brisbane, so it makes sense. It makes sense that they, come back and they play a grand final. I think that would have been good. But look, I don't know. Look, Birds of Tokyo, they love their footy. They're an Aussie band as well. Someone like them, I think. Yeah. But shit. Who really knows what they're going to do? So,
I would have. I would have put money on you mentioning Ziggy Alberts there, mate. So anyway.
Well, he's over in he's in Byron, so he's just down the road. But I think
there we go.
Not sure he's going to run the stadium though, is it?
No, it's not.
And it's a late grand final. If it was a 12 o'clock type show, you could probably get away with a bit of Ziggy. But it'd be a big day on the beers, like Cox Plate into the footy. You know, you put some Ziggy on, there'll be a few tired boys going to sleep.
And I'm sure you agree, mate. If it was called Chisel and Paul Kelly, well, not Paul Kelly's good, of course he is, but. For me and you, we just want Flame Trees repeating and repeating, and that's the set, I reckon.
Exactly. They can play that on repeat. Just a bit similar to Daryl Braithwaite, just getting up and just playing horses on repeat whenever he gets up. I think something similar to the Cold Chisel, I'd be happy with that. So,
yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. But, yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much, mate, for coming on and taking us through Brisbane. Best of luck. I know they're not your side, but I guess you'll be rooting for them in finals. So
yeah, they are my side for finals. I think I'm on the bandwagon, but again, I like Richmond. I like Geelong. I think they're probably my two picks. If I had to pick, if I had to be more biased and pick one, I'd pick Richmond just because they've got the runs on the board. But I don't give Port much credit, and I just haven't been able to win them. They haven't won me over this year. I think that They've played a lot at home as well. Haven't beaten anyone of note. They got flogged by Brisbane. They got flogged by Geelong. They've lost to the Saints. You know, they got a couple of the West Coast and Brisbane. They got them early when West Coast and Richmond. They got them early when they were really undermanned. So I think I'd be licking my lips to play them, and I'd be certainly a little bit more worried playing Geelong or Richmond, but. I don't know. Out of those two, I don't know who wins. Geelong probably have had a better year than Richmond, but one of those two.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of finals, hey? Who knows? We'll see.
Exactly. Well, that's it. Yeah, and then you got, as I said, Brisbane's got home finals, so I think it's a 4-horse race at the moment. But
I like it.
Again, I don't know about West Coast either. They're a good finals team. So I think it's out of the Victorian team so far for me. But again, we'll probably know a lot more come Monday, won't we?
Hello, Dino. Thank you very much for joining us. We've got Dean on to take us through the West Coast Eagles season and how they think they're going to play out in finals. So welcome, mate. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Matt. Thanks, Grant. Absolute privilege to be on this podcast, to be honest.
Anytime. Anytime, mate. You're always welcome, especially when it's AFL finals talk. So let's jump straight in. Obviously, for us all, it's been an interesting season. And how have you found the season for obviously the West Coast Eagles, adapting to the hub and what's the form like, coming into the finals?
In all honesty, it's been a very, very interesting one in terms of the season. Obviously, West Coast Eagles have really struggled away from home this year.
Right.
Hub in Queensland was an absolute disaster for them.
Right.
Starting the year as some premiership favourites and missing out on some points with some losses to Brisbane, Port Adelaide, I think, also Gold Coast. So they started really poorly. Got them back home in WA, and it was just all guns blazing all of a sudden. Haven't lost there for the year, so they've obviously moved on pretty well. So to get back to Perth for the first final against Collingwood is an absolute pleasure, and it's a must, obviously being an elimination game. So it's worked out in our favour. Obviously missed out on top 4 spot. And finishing in 5th, but elimination while at home, that's a bonus for us.
That was literally going to be my next question. I was wondering how important it was. It seemed like there was a big onus on you guys to get that top 4, but obviously just missed out on it. But maybe it's worked out in your favour a little bit that you've now got this home final playing in front of fans. How big of a difference do you think that will make for the Eagles?
I think that's a significant difference for us. Most of the interstate teams that are based outside of Victoria really struggle when they need to come to Victoria to play anyway. West Coast to finish in the top 4 and get 2 home finals would have been absolutely fantastic. Would have meant that we would have played the first final away from home. But the fact that we finished in 5th spot, so we still got that home final for the elimination, was fantastic. I'm not too sure on what the crowd is going to be at the moment. I think they're talking somewhere in the region of 30,000.
Right.
Allowed to the game. They've opened it up for most people, which is, it's a capacity of 60,000 at stadium. So opening that up is really good. It's a big ground. they tend to play a lot better at home. They've beaten Collingwood over there this year. Actually, Collingwood has lost to both Perth teams over there this year.
Right.
So in terms of the crowd, the weather looks like it's going to be a nice cool 17 degrees, 16 degrees on the night. So yeah, look, it's going to be a huge factor playing at home, and obviously with the quarantine issues, Collingwood has been based at a resort. It's a nice resort.
Yeah.
So they're based there for a while. The West Coast players have had to be based at. They got lucky and they got based at home, and they could stay at home and just go to and from training. So I think the fact that they managed to get straight home and have spent the 14 days there has been a huge bonus. So being back in Perth is a real win for us at the moment.
Yeah, good. And obviously,
go on.
I was going to say, and obviously looking forward to the game as well. Obviously, are there any standout players for West Coast, or those key, those difference makers, or even one or two players that are maybe under the radar or surprise packages that you want to step up?
Well, look, I think the first thing we need to look at is the players that are coming back in.
Yeah.
We've obviously got McGovern's coming back in, Luke Shuey back in, Jack Redden, Lewis Jetta. I think Josh Kennedy's a 50-50, so he's probably back as well. So in terms of the ins for the team, they're absolutely massive.
Yeah.
I think of those, it's going to be an interesting tussle actually, because I think getting our backman and McGovern, that could be one of the keys for us with some interceptions back there. Collingwood's been notorious for not being able to kick so many goals this year.
Right.
So to have our main backman back into the side, patrolling across the half-back line will be nice to see. I think he could be one of the keys for the game.
Yeah.
I don't know whether we'll go with any tagging options as well. When there's any Collingwood players that really, really need to be watched. Obviously, some of the midfielders in, Adam Trelaw, basically Scott Pendlebury, Taylor Adams. Those guys have been playing really well at the moment. But I think to go out forward's the main concern for Collingwood. If we can take care of to go out forward kicking goals, that might be the key for us. I think someone for us like, who would I look at? Probably Tim Kelly. I think he'll probably cop a bit of a hard tag, but I think with Kelly and Shuey back in the side together, unfortunately, I think Kelly plays pretty well when Shuey's not in the team.
Right.
They're separate. But I'm hoping that if Collingwood go with a couple of hard tags and try and control some of them, one of them will get loose, hopefully.
Yeah. To play devil's advocate, if you've obviously got a lot of these lads coming back in now who've been in and out of the side for a while. Obviously, you've had a bit of inconsistency with injuries. Does it disrupt the flow a little bit by bringing a lot of these new players back in? Or are you just of the opinion, just get your best players out on the field and we'll go from there?
I think at the moment we need our best players out in the field.
Yeah.
Over the last few weeks, I think we've been really inconsistent with our form. I don't think we're travelling too well coming into the finals.
Yeah.
I'm not overly confident about the match just because of that. But we've had a lot of young kids that have come in for the last few weeks.
Yeah, right.
To take care of those injuries. A lot of them are soft tissue injuries, so that could be a bit of a concern.
Yeah.
Some hamstring injuries back and things like that. So, look, I think you put the best team out on the park, and a few of them have been ready to go for a week or two. So, 14 days at home and the bye that we have before the finals is probably a blessing in disguise for them.
Is there any particular, and not to say, not to give Collingwood a game plan, but are there any particular areas of concern or weaknesses that you may have that they would look to exploit? Or
I think I looked at the stats, to be honest, earlier. I thought I'd come on with a bit of preparation as well.
That's what we like.
The contested ball. West Coast isn't great at contested ball, and I think with Elliot Yeo, one of our strongest bulls around the contest at the moment, he's out for the season with an injury. So I think the contested ball, when we're getting it out in the middle, when we're getting it out stoppages, if Nat Nui can get on top of Brodie Grundy, that would be very nice and helpful for us. But then midfield is very powerful. They seem to break away from contests very well. So I think getting those hard balls in the contest, and then they tend to run pretty hard from there. So that would be my big concern.
Yeah.
That being said, then, how do you think this game's going to play out?
I tell you what,
$1 million question, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be I don't think it's going to be high scoring.
Right.
I can't see I'm not going to say that our forward line doesn't have the potential at the moment. You've got someone like Josh Kennedy coming back, Darling's onto form, but Liam Ryan in sensational form at the moment, so he could break the game open if he moves well inside the 50. But I think Collingwood's got a decent back line, so that might hold it back a little bit. So I don't think it's going to be a high-scoring contest. I think if teams can get the momentum, if they can get the flow going quite nicely and some run from the midfield, then that'll probably indicate which team will move forward better than the other one. So, yeah, I think that midfield contest and the run through the midfield that'll open it up a bit. But, pretty tight contest, I think, this one.
In a world then where you do overcome Collingwood in this one, how confident are you that you can kick on? Obviously, you're an experienced finals team now. Do you think that counts for much moving forward?
I think it does, and I think actually at the moment with the teams not playing out of their home grounds so much, so I think for West Coast, if we manage to win this one, I think we either get it might be Port Adelaide or Geelong.
I think it is.
So if it's one of those teams, it's probably going to be in Adelaide, which isn't a great place for us, to be honest, to play.
Right.
If you ask me, they're probably the two informed teams of the comp. They're obviously Richmond is an outstanding team, and I think with Port Adelaide and Geelong, they're the standout three of the competition at the moment. So you know what? To be honest, I'm not very confident moving forward from here. I'd like to think we are. I was at a final last year when I watched West Coast be destroyed by Geelong.
Right.
Final. So I'm expecting it to be a very, very difficult contest if we get one.
Yeah.
Look, I'll hope if West Coast can get the ball rolling and they can show the form that they have when they're in their best form and they use the ball and they don't turn it over, then they're in with a shot. But it's going to be very, very tough moving forward.
It would be a realistic tip then.
Realistic. I think we should get over this one. We should get over Collingwood, but I don't know if we'll progress.
Anyone that you think will go all the way if it's not yourselves?
Well, I can't go past Richmond at the moment.
Yeah.
I think they're starting to they've got Dion Prestius come back this week. Tom Lynch isn't back, but their forward line functions well anyway.
Well, Mitch will be happy with that answer then.
Yeah, they're moving pretty well. They're looking
for his wife.
Last week though. So that was decent, but I think Brisbane's got a couple of good players back into their back line. But I think some ins for Richmond. They're just starting to look cherry ripe at this time.
Yeah, fair enough. And obviously, so nothing for St Kilda. You don't think
I think a bit of rain. I think by the look of it.
Yeah.
They're small midfielders. They get around the ball. They run hard, and I think they look fantastic when they do. But it's whether they can get it up forward to kick enough goals, and when their back line's strong enough, coming up against some of these bigger teams. It'll be very, very interesting. So, if they get the ball and they run hard, that's the difference for them.
I'm looking forward to speaking to Anthony a bit later, who's going to take us through Saints, and I'm hoping he can get me hyped up for it.
You'll be right, I think. Saints have got it this week. I don't think the Bulldogs are showing too much at the moment. I think Saints are looking quite good. They could be a bit of danger for some of these teams if they're not on top of their midfield. So it'll be very interesting.
Yeah. We've both got some money on them.
Yeah, well, exactly. I put $5 on them, so we'll see how.
You've got a decent odds as well, I see.
41 to 1. So, but a bookie never has a part-time job, so there we go. Say a bookie with a part-time job. But listen, we talk about finals and we talk about going all the way and the flag and the importance of it. But the burning question for me really is, if it's up to yourself, Dean, who do you want as the half-time entertainment? We're a couple of weeks away. If it's up to you, borders are shut. Who are we getting on short notice? Who do you want?
I tell you what, is there anyone? Harley Bennell at the moment, he'd be good entertainment at half-time.
Just come in the middle of the field in a cage.
Bringing the ambulance to drop him off. I don't know. It's a difficult one because no one's getting up there. Aussie bands tend to be pretty crap in terms of their performances that they put on. So I wouldn't have a clue who they're going to.
There was a call for Meatloaf yesterday. How about Meatloaf?
Bring in the Batmobile, whatever they can do as well. No, I think they're just looking for free entertainment at the moment. So if you've got a good karaoke number yourself, you might be.
Well,
yeah. Well, if I was in Queensland, I'd give it a go. But...
Yeah, I know.
Amazing.
But,
Dean, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And best of luck to West Coast in finals this weekend, and we'll touch base again, depending on how we go.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks, and good luck to the Saints boys. And
Essendon will be next year.
Yeah,
next year.
With a brand new lineup by the look of it.
Yeah.
Right, now we are joined by Ashleigh Gardner. Thank you for joining us, Ash. She's going to take us through the Collingwood Football Club and to see kind of how they're looking going into finals.
Yeah, look, there's been a lot of trash talk, I would call it, leading into finals about Collingwood just being there to make up the numbers. Obviously, they're sitting 8th on the ladder, so they are on the bottom of that run for finals. Look, they do have the odds stacked against them. They're in the middle of a quarantine stint. They're going to be coming up against the Eagles at home at Optus Stadium. And the last time we faced the Eagles at Optus Stadium, we went down by 11 goals. So it was a bit of a rude shock. So obviously, we've really got our work cut out for us heading into this game on Saturday. So
yeah. Well, in terms of this season, it's obviously been an interesting one for us all. And from my understanding of the game, it's probably has been a little bit of an underwhelming season for Collingwood. Do you feel the same, or how? What are your anticipation coming into the finals and the season as a whole?
Yeah, so to say that this season has been a weird one is an understatement. I think that coronavirus has really been a great equalizer for a lot of teams. Teams that have a really huge following and perform really well in front of big crowds. Obviously, that element has been taken away. So it's been really interesting to see how teams have performed under really weird circumstances. Look, Collingwood's performance, I think, has been a bit up and down as a supporter, as some games have been so hard to watch. Like the last West Coast game, that was a little bit soul-destroying. But then I feel like in the last few games, we've really hit our straps. And I think having Jordan De Goey come back into side is a real boost heading into this upcoming elimination final. I think still Sidebottom being out is a big loss. He's obviously gone back to Victoria to be with his partner for the arrival of their new baby. So a couple of ins and outs there that I think could be a pretty big factor heading into the game. But in terms of Collingwood's overall season, I mean, it's been up and down, and I think it's been a little bit like that for a lot of the clubs that have been really needing to acclimatise to this whole quarantine process and the lockdown process. And even the AFL's protocols. We've seen so many clubs and individuals faced with quarantine breaches or hub breaches. So it's been a really bizarre season all round. But, I mean, I think the footy frenzy was a pretty good thing to come out of. When we were all in lockdown and feeling a little bored, I think it was nice that we could literally switch on the TV every single night of the week.
Absolutely.
And being able to watch a game of footy. So it's had its pros and cons.
Yeah, I totally agree. Even with the bye week that's just gone on, I feel like it's brought loads of conversations about that because we were so used to having football on tap all the time. We took a week off and everyone lost their minds, just didn't know what to do with ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it became kind of a staple of our weeks that we knew that footy was when we switched on the tally. So having a bye week, I think, has left a lot of people feeling a little lost. But I mean, it was brought in so that it would ensure that some of your big name players who might be out with injury gave them an opportunity to come back into the fold in time for finals. And I think especially off the back of this blitz where we've had so many games in a row, it was pretty crucial to give those players a bit of a spell so they could be back with, full steam ahead for the finals.
Yeah. You touched on it a little bit there, but they obviously, Collingwood have been over and they've had the quarantine now. I think they've been over there for 2 weeks or 14 days, right? They're coming off the back of a quarantine. They're going into the final there with a crowd. They're going to be playing in front of a big crowd, something that maybe they're not used to, maybe that intensity of a big away crowd. How do you think that's going to affect their mentality going into the game?
Yeah, look, I think performing in front of a crowd of 33,000 that probably all aren't aligned with them is going to be a little bit tough. But I do also think there's something to be said for the underdog as well. And I think that that's a challenge that Collingwood is quite good at rising to when they're viewed as the team that's less favoured. I think that's really when they do get a bit of grit about them and they really stand up. And I do think that, I mean, Scott Pendlebury as well is a great kind of composed, calming influence under high pressure scenario. So I think he'll really perform well in this game in particular because of the nature and I guess the vibe of the game. Yeah.
And are there any, you mentioned obviously Pendlebury there, are there any other players that you're looking to step up for Collingwood, or anyone, even surprise packages, or anyone that you just think, could really, shine it and it's their moment too?
Yeah, look, I think Jordan De Goey will need to kind of show that he's worth his weight in this particular game. Darcy Moore, I think, is going to perform well. He always does, and there's a reason he was just named in the All-Australian squad. Yeah. So I dare say he'll stand out. He'll step up. I think Jaden Stevenson's probably been a little bit of a disappointment the last few games. I think when he first came out, he was extremely electric, and I think that spark has dulled a little bit. So I think it would be nice to see some of those type of players really stand up. But it's Brodie Grundy's 150th game on that particular game. So he has his work cut out for him with Nick Nat.
Yeah.
So I really hope that milestone game kind of gets a bit of fire in his belt and be able to step up a bit as well.
Yeah, well, when we were speaking to Dean, he particularly mentioned that in terms of that battle itself will be so interesting to watch. And is there anybody else from the West Coast team that maybe you're worried about, or any, certainly if you look at maybe your weaknesses, or
Yeah, well, West Coast has had a few injuries, but quite a few of those players are coming in, like Luke Shuey and McGovern. A few of those boys are going to be coming back in.
Yeah,
I think their stocks are going to be very bolstered. So not only going off the track record of us losing by 11 goals last time, plus some of the stocks that are being replenished for them, I really do think that we're up against it. But like I said, I think that underdog mentality might work in our favour, and I think it'll be a tougher battle than what a lot of people are giving Collingwood credit for. I don't think they're going to lie down by any stretch. So
good.
Where do you win this game, Ash?
Will I win this game?
Where do you win it? What have Collingwood got to do to get over West Coast?
Well, I think, it's probably going to start in the centre, hey? Like if Nick Nat dominates as much as he always does, and that I think is really going to, I think that's going to set the tone. So I think if Grundy's able to, really challenge him there, and just so it can swing the other way a bit more, because that's really going. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, no pressure, but you're really going to have to, because Nick Nat's just a force to be reckoned with. Like he's just such a talent. So I think that's going to be a real battle there.
In a world where you do get over West Coast, do you think your Collingwood's finals experience can take you further? Would you back yourself moving on into the next round?
Look, as a one-eyed Collingwood supporter, I would like to think so, and I would say yes, but then history shows that no team has ever claimed the flag from 8th position on the ladder. So, look, the numbers aren't great. They're not in our favour, but I do think if we play our best brand of footy, I sound like a coach, but I do think, they're certainly a competitive side. I think that loss to Port Adelaide in that final round was really costly for Collingwood, because that would have seen the Pies avoid flying to Perth, and instead we would have taken on St Kilda on neutral turf. And not to tarnish your voice, Matt, but I think that would have been a much fiercer kind of performance in Collingwood's favour. So...
Yeah. Do you have a reply to that one, Matt? Any fighting talk, or?
No, I agree. It's going to be, even for Saints, when you look ahead at the path that we've got. It's finals, so there's no easy games, is there? But I think it's a tough run in whichever way you go, really.
Yeah.
And you look at the top three, like that's a really tight top end of the ladder. Like it's really hard to split those teams. So it's going to be interesting.
If you take your Collingwood hat off, what's the realistic tip? Who do you think will be your Premier this year?
Look, I think you'd be silly not to say the minor premiers Port Adelaide are in with a really big chance. I think, I think they've had a great season, and we've seen a lot of the interstate teams perform really well in these unprecedented times. I think for that reason they're used to perhaps the travel and perhaps not having the crowd numbers in their support, all of those factors. But I think Port Adelaide will do really well, and I think they'll probably make it to the big dance. But again, they've got a super big challenge ahead of them because they lost the last time they faced the Cats, they lost by 60 points. So again, the numbers aren't quite in their favour, but I do think that they're absolutely hot contenders for the flag. I had initially thought that Brisbane might be the other side that could potentially be the team to take out the flag, but they're coming up against Richmond, and both the most recent games they've gone down to Richmond by 40-odd points. So I think realistically it's going to be a Port Adelaide or a Richmond winning team.
Yeah, Brisbane feel like the fairy tale. That's the one that's the way that it should go. I always feel, but like you say, coming up against Richmond, they've got this. They seem to have this aura around them once it gets to finals. It's tough for them.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the other team. Is the teams that have got that finals experience as well. That that tend to stand up, and the teams with less experience can lose their legs and kind of fold in those high pressure situations. So I think, like you said, the teams with that grand final or finals experience are the ones that do perform really well. I think it would have been a fairy tale for the Brisbane to win at the Gabba. I think that would have been pretty special for them. I don't think you could write a more perfect ending to a fairy tale story. But I mean, credit where credit's due. Port Adelaide have had an outstanding year, and I think they would also deserve to take home the chocolates too.
Well, we've discussed the potential winner and who's going to go all the way, but the burning question for me, and the most important I find, is a few weeks away. If it was up to yourself, Ash, who should be this grand final halftime entertainment? Who's, in terms of, if it was down to you, we need someone, right? The borders are shut. We need a halftime show.
I actually haven't given this too much thought.
If it was up to you, there might not be a realistic choice, but anyone that you want.
I mean, I think you need to get an Aussie icon. Have we wheeled out John Farnham to enough events? Is he do we get him out of retirement for a 45th time, or how many comeback tours has he done?
I know. I'm a bit of cold chisel. I'm a sucker for a bit of flame trees, but who knows?
Yeah, who were you guys thinking?
Well, I've heard that I know that there was obviously the whole Powderfinger stuff, but I heard a lot of traction online with the bookies odds, like Keith Urban is going to be doing it and stuff. So I don't know whether it's going to be somebody like him or I don't know.
They're in town. He and Nicole are in town. So I mean,
there you go.
They could.
I can't Cory mentioned Meatloaf, and I can't look past Meatloaf.
That was so bad.
Yeah.
No.
Disaster.
No.
It feels like it's the year for it. 2020.
Yeah.
Actually, could you have anything more 2020? Would that not just wrap up the year perfectly in a big bow if you then had Meatloaf turn up to do the halftime entertainment?
Yeah.
That's the light for the year. So that's my pick. I'm going for Meatloaf just to crown off 2020.
Yeah.
Amazing. Ash, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure, and best luck to Collingwood. Hopefully we don't come up against you at any point. But
thanks, guys.
Alrighty, this is it. We're saving the best one till last. I brought Anthony on to basically tell me how Saints are going to win this flag. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us, mate.
Thanks for having us. It's a good time to be talking footy this time of year.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Good stuff, mate. Good to have you on. Well, obviously, St Kilda back in finals footy, last time since obviously 2011. How has the season been, mate? I know it's been a strange one. How's the excitement coming in?
Oh, as a fan, it's been great. You know, like you said, it's been 9 years since we've been in finals. It's kind of been well overdue. You know, like we've had a good season. We started off, we lost a few games by, I think, 4 points. We lost to Freo North. Not a good start to the season, but you rallied and, you know, beat some top teams like Richmond and Port. So that got us rolling and managed to kind of sit in 6th position, which was a bit surprising, but we got there.
Yeah. I was going to say that as well, because coming into this season, I was positive about it, but I didn't have that much expectation. Like I didn't think we'd finish where we finished up. Has it surprised you as well? Have we almost overachieved this season, or is it about right?
I think as a Saints supporter, I thought we had the list building, and then, you know, bringing in Ryder, Paddy Hill, a fit Hanbury for most of the season, Dougal Howard. That just kind of made everyone push that a little bit harder to earn them spot in the best 22. So we've got a bit more depth now. So you're not just picking guys because of their talent, that you're picking them because they actually have to play good football in the resis or train well and everything like that. So I thought we would make finals. The season was a bit up and down. You just had to get the ball rolling early in the season, and we did that. And new coach Brett Ratton, who has just, you know, just reinvigorated the side, the club on off-field, on-field. He's just a good poster guy for us. So I'm happy with 6. Obviously, we always left it until the last round of the year. And as a Saints supporter, that's not surprising. So your heart's always beaten. And you do get frustrated, but, you know, we got there. That's all we need to do.
Well, for me, as like a relatively new Saints fan, this is the first time I'm seeing us play finals. So on that run-in, those last couple of games, you know, again, it was a bit inconsistent. You've got those like close losses to Melbourne, to Brisbane, but then last day of the season, great performance. So we're coming in though with a little bit of momentum, I guess. How do you see the team looking, and how do you think we're feeling going into this first final game against the Bulldogs?
I think if you had to pick us to match up against a team, it would have been the Dogs. So I think it's going to be a good matchup for the Saints. We've obviously lost Battle, which is a big out. He's a swing man. He can pop up, kick a few goals here and there, and he always puts his body on the line. It's always, we just need to get that momentum going. We're there now, but it's a new season now. You know, it's do or die. So we've got to bring 100%. I think we can do it. There's no doubt. You know, I am nervous, you know. It has been 9 years, so I don't even know what the feeling's like anymore. So
no. And obviously you touched on the game there. Is there anyone who you believe, Anthony, who would, you know, that you believe will step up for St Kilda and also even people, you know, even a couple of players, maybe a surprise package who you want to see a big game from?
Well, I think Billings has probably had a pretty quiet month. He's had a good quarter in there. He hasn't really hit his straps though. I think he's had a good game. He kicked 3 goals, I think, early in the year against the Dogs. So he has a good track record against them. So I think this is a game. Finals are here. You know, come out, play your best football, do it for the team. I'm a big fan of, you know, Jack Loney. If he does, you know, get selected, he has a bit of a knee injury, but if he's selected, I just think that he can just pop up, kick both sides of his foot, you know, puts the pressure on, and hopefully, you know, he can snag a few for us.
And on the flip side, is there anyone in you know, in the individual matchups, or if you look at the Doggies side, is there anyone that you're really worried about, or in terms of who you need to shut down?
They've got a strong midfield. So you've got Bontempelli, McRae, Libba in there. So, you know, they're 3 quality guys who find a lot of the footy. And they're 2 of them are all Australian. You've got Caleb Daniel off the back line. So you've got to stop their influence and put a lot of pressure on them early in the game on the ball. Because if they start going forward and even kicking goals, then that's really going to hurt us. So, you need to take their impact. You know, they're always going to rack up the touches, but the impact and their efficiency that you've got to pull back down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's it. You know, it's when you look at the Saints side, I guess it is a fairly young, it's inexperienced when it comes to finals. Does that make much of a difference, you think, now? If we can build some momentum, if we can get past the Bulldogs, how far do you think that can take us with the kind of lack of experience? Is that a detriment to us? Or
that's exactly right. Like, it's all good getting here, but to make that next step, you have to win a final. You've seen other clubs like Essendon who have just got there.
Last year was a massacre against West Coast.
My mates have told me that you've got to win a final. And that will really... We've got a lot of guys from other clubs that have come to the Saints that have played finals. So that's a positive. And hopefully they're just bringing that a bit of knowledge to what to expect. I think if we do get through this week, you know, it's you don't know what the next week's going to bring. It's just a whole thing. And new guys coming in. It's a good feeling around the club. But obviously, you got to one match at a time, as they always say, you know, so it gets annoying, but it's literally what you got to do. So.
I always feel younger players as well across a lot of sports. It's kind of that nothing to lose. It's kind of that no fear. I always find with younger players, the kids kind of have never experienced, you know, you're not talking these 30-year-old guys that have been through it and heartbreak and up and down. These boys are in and it goes, right, we're not here just to compete. Just, you know, we're not the bookies aren't expecting us to win. The odds are what they are. So,
right. Yeah. So, like, we lose, everyone expected us to lose. And if we win, well, you know, we're doing it for us. We're doing it for the fans, you know. So, I hope that's a good way to do it. It's kind of, you know, I'm nervous actually thinking about it. It's Wednesday already.
I'm going to sleep tonight now. You're going to be buzzing all night.
And like you said, 2020 has been a totally different season. So, you know, the atmosphere's probably not going to be there as it would down in Melbourne. But, you know, there's obviously a lot of Saints fans up in Queensland. So, just the atmosphere, the drama, you kind of just you just want everyone to be ready for the siren, go out there and give it 110%. So,
if I guess to play devil's advocate, if you take your St Kilda hat off for a minute, realistically, how do you see this final series playing out? Who would be your kind of realistic tip?
For the flag?
Yeah.
I don't. You can't go. Everyone's on Richmond.
Yeah.
But you can't doubt Port Adelaide. I think if Port Adelaide manage to get, well, they've got their first final at home. If they win that, they get the next final at home as well. That's they're probably going to make the granny. And then it's my pick's Port. I think they've been the best team all year for 17 rounds. So but yeah, you just don't know. This season brought up a lot of stuff. So, you know, Richmond's always hanging around, which is annoying. But,
And obviously, you know, the burning question, you can talk about who's the tip for the flag, but the one that I want to know really is, you know, a few weeks away, who's going to be the grand final halftime entertainment? If it was down to yourself, Anthony, is there anyone who is it? You know, Powderfinger aren't doing it. Who are we going for?
You might have a clue, mate. You might
going for.
Yeah, get some new people from Triple J or something like that. You know?
It's just I know.
Yeah, they've got to be in Queensland.
So
exactly.
Grant. Kylie and Jason Donovan might be knocking around.
Kylie and Jason coming back. Peter Andre, where's he? Is he back in England these days? Where are all these Aussie greats? The true Aussie greats, you know?
Oh, get Daryl Braithwaite up there or something, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Just put a call out. Whoever's in Queensland who's got a guitar and an amp, get him in. You're on.
Yeah. I think that's the way it's going to be, you know?
Yeah. Well, fair enough.
All right, Anthony, thank you so much for doing this with us. Best of luck to the Saints. You know, I've got my fingers crossed for us. I think it's going to be. I'm so excited to see us play finals. It's the first time for me, so I'll be cheering us on Saturday afternoon. It's going to be huge. And yeah, we'll maybe touch base again if we do get over the doggies. We'll get you back on and we'll see what's next.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Thanks for having us, guys. Yeah.
You're welcome, mate. Yeah, that's it, mate.
That's it. It is.
What a night, mate. What a fantastic insight. It was so good having everyone on. I didn't even ask for your kind of your picks. Who have you got your eye on?
Well, as you know, mate, at the start of the season, I said Geelong would win it. this year would go all the way. No rhyme or reason to it. I just think, the players are at the right age. They've got some strong leaders there in Ablett, Danger. When you've got a guy like Tomahawk kicking the goals as well, you're always in with a chance. So I can't deviate away from that prediction. And obviously, hopefully Danger takes home the Brownlow as well. So I really think those guys. But obviously, I'm a neutral for this final. Whereas somebody like yourself, heart and head, try and separate the St Kilda hat for a second. Matt, who are you feeling to go all the way?
Obviously the heart's with Saints, but for me, I think if you're being realistic about it, it'd be amazing for Saints to get a win in this final series, and we'll see how we go from there. Who knows? Mad things have happened. If we get a bit of momentum behind us, I want to see Saints get a win. If we can get a win over the Doggies, who knows? But for me, that even would be enough. It would be amazing just to get that win in finals. The fairy tale kind of flag winner would be Brisbane for me. I think having the home final up at the Gabba, they've played at home all year as well. They almost should be winning this. Yeah. But they've got a hurdle to overcome in Richmond there. Like we were just saying to Anthony, they've got something to overcome with Richmond. So I think if the smart money for me is with Port. I think they've been the best side in the comp, the most consistent side. It's hard to look past them, I think. I guess to summarise, I just want to give a big shout out and a big thanks to everyone who's contributed. This is a fantastic sport, and it's so good to get everybody's insight into their teams, the game as a whole. It's been, like we've said, it's been a weird season, hasn't it? And that plays a big part into it and into everyone's mindsets coming into finals. So thank you to everyone who's contributed. And if you're not an AFL fan, I guess I'm mainly talking to the UK listeners here. I can't recommend this sport enough. It's absolutely fantastic. It's a brilliant game. You can catch it now on BT Sport. I'm pretty sure it's on in the UK. Probably weird times, but you'll be able to catch it. Final season's incredible. It really gets interesting, and the football's incredible. So tune in, and big thank you to everyone who's contributed. We really appreciate it. Yeah, no, I agree, Matt. It's fantastic sport, and as I say, the guests that we've had on as well today only helps us learn more about the game and fall more in love with the game as well. So, and obviously, we're still finding our feet in this game, in this podcasting game, but I think we're doing all right. So, like we say every week, really, if everyone can like, comment, subscribe, and just get it out to your friends, anyone that you think may be interested in us guys talking about sport and different things, then, we're grateful of the follows and the comments. Any questions, hit us up on socials, on Twitter, on Instagram, and, we'll happily answer them in due course. And, once again, thanks for watching and supporting us.